Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
This is the Edge of Liberty podcast.
Get ready for truth bombs, belly laughs, the kind of accent that turns car into a two-syllable adventure. Here's your host, Shaun.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Welcome to the Edge of Liberty right here on the SHI Media Network. Simulcast with our good friends over at KLRN Radio. It is April the 15th, 2026. Thank you for joining us. Please do me a favor. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. It can't hurt you. It doesn't cost you nothing. But if you have a couple bucks to burn, you can go to SHI Media, grab some swag. Just click on the 250 Reasons shirt at the very top. 250 Reasons to read source documents. Oh. Why, thank you to Big E. It is. How weird. No, hold on. No, it says everything should be normal. I'm being told there's problems with my audio. Everything is set up appropriately. Double check in. Yeah. No, everything's good. I don't know what's going on. If it's a problem, I'll try to fix it, but I can't right now. I got a lot to talk about tonight. Hopefully the audio issue isn't so bad. Let me cut the background noise way back. Maybe that'll help. Mission Ready Men's in the chat room. You get in the chat room too, shrmedia.com. Rowdy Rick says, sounded good on my end. The loop is annoying though. Tough shit. I don't know. Tough shit. I appreciate you letting me know the audio is good. It is you, Mission Ready Men. See, you got me all nervous, and you're the problem. It's not me this time. Normally it's me. I admit I am regularly a problem in this world. But this, my friend, is not it. I am going to talk about the California gubernatorial race now that a certain someone is not in it anymore. I do really want to talk about what's going on with Tim Walz because that's suddenly interesting and amazingly quiet. But first, the Swalwell fallout just continues. Roddy Rick in the chat says you are the problem, not just that problem. I am the problem, sir. Fully admit to it. I have no issue with that. So the Swallout story is Swalwell, Swallout, Fallout, Swalwell, Falwell. It is really, starting to look like it's the tip of the iceberg because we have the Ruben Gallegos aspect of this, and remember they were roommates when they were living in DC. Gallego went on the other day and gave a really weird interview about how we hid it from them, blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, there's pictures of them with their shirts off together in the backyard, opening champagne. There's no way that Ruben Gallego can sit here and say with a straight face he had no idea what's going on. Now, I know the video in the hotel room. I know a lot of speculation. I can't confirm that. But what I can almost guarantee is that Ruben Gallego knew Swalwell was who he was. And as if I didn't just speculate on that, look at this interview Gallego gave today and look at how just twitchy he is.
I don't know what's going on with his family, but it's definitely a horrible situation for family. They're using that as a cover to attack me right now because they can't do it. They couldn't take back 2024 because they ran a horrible race. But now this is what they want to do. They just want to hurt me as much as they can. Presidents.
I first and foremost, didn't Ruben Gallego leave his wife when she was 72 months pregnant or some ridiculous something ridiculous like that? I love how he's playing an angel right now and innocent when he's not. Like I said, he may not have partook, if you will, with what Swalwell is doing. I can't prove that yet. There's not enough evidence out there to prove that yet. But for him to act like he's this innocent human being and this really good person and how they're using this to attack me, you put yourself in that situation. That's like me saying that it's somebody else's fault that I'm a little fat. Nobody shoved the fork in my hands. Nobody grabbed my hand and forced the fork with cake on it to my mouth and put. No. I'm like this. Yeah, there's some injuries that played a part in it. But overall, I'm like this because of me, Mr. Gallego. You're being attacked because of you. It's not they're using it because they lost an election. No, we're living in the present. You want to bring it back to an election, but we're living in the present. You clearly knew what the fuck Swalwell was doing, or you had to have some idea, or you are the dumbest human being to ever exist to suggest you didn't know your roommate was up to all this shit. Your buddy that you hung out with all the time, your pal, you didn't know he was up. So are you that dumb? And if so, maybe you should resign from the Senate for being so fucking stupid. It's intolerable. Gallego's DeLorean goes way past 88 miles an hour if you catch my meaning, Mr. Frodo. Listening Post Studios in the chat. It, in fact, goes way more. Boyd McPhail in the chat says, I think a few more are going to go down, especially if Mace can get the slush fund open. We're going to talk about the slush fund. I have that tuned up because I think that's an important piece. Let's listen to and watch Gallegos. Watch his body movements in this. Now, admittedly, tonight, I went out to dinner with friends and had a couple cocktails before dinner. So my body might be a little exaggerated. My words might be a little exaggerated. I'm admitting that I had a couple cocktails before I came on the air. I'm really proud of that, actually. I'm not even that's not even a thing of embarrassment. I'm like, no, I had a couple cocktails. It was great. Watch Gallegos' body language and watch all of his furtive gestures. I wish I had a one of those body movement experts that will explain all of this. But I think if you're just a normal human being watching this, you can realize how fucked up he is in this situation right now.
Anything else like that, I don't care. We're going to wait, and that's not even a thing right now. The most important thing is I want to protect my family. I want to protect my family's reputation, and this is why we're talking about right now.
Senator, you've gone on trips, on vacations, officially, unofficially. You've gone out, presumably, with the congressman. You've never even witnessed him, I don't know, engaging in an affair?
No.
Never.
What about no?
How do you explain some of the photos?
No follow-up allowed there. Just no. Look at how I've seen Ruben Gallegos interviewed a lot. His body posture is entirely different in this interview because he's nervous, and he should be nervous from what some of the rumors are.
So online, I know you addressed one, but there is another one that shows both of you without shirts. I mean, how do you address some of those compromising photos?
We were on a beach.
Yeah, I think you were in the desert and on some camels.
It was a beach and a camel. But it's a beach, yeah.
It's just a beach. It's a beach. Don't worry about it. It's just a beach. Boyd in the chat room says, when was the last time your buddy never told you about the girls he did? Well, even if it's not, that's a really great point, Boyd. Because even if they don't get into really tight details, you can still see it. Like, we all had that friend who you never really knew what his dating relationship was. You just knew he was going out with girls, but you knew he was into something, right? You knew, like, he's still going out and stuff. He just doesn't bring them around, probably because they're like mopeds. A lot of fun to ride to your friends find out. But you knew something was there. There's no way you can share a house with a dude that you're partying with on a regular basis. And look, I mean, if you ever had roommates when you were younger, I had roommates. My roommate knew everything that we were doing. I knew everything that he was doing. We were going out and partying. That's just life. That's just reality. This interview, he's just, God. I've interviewed a lot of guilty people, and I'm not saying he's guilty of anything because I've yet to see the evidence to prove it. So it's all speculation, admittedly. I've interviewed a lot of people guilty of things and crimes back in the day. And the body language isn't that much different than what we're seeing here, but I digress.
What were the
It was flirty. That was flirty.
And that was when? About what year was it?
I mean, that was through. We've heard that. We've heard that throughout.
Senator, you just said. Thank you so much. I want to clarify because in the beginning,
I know we'll go back there.
In the beginning, you said when you first heard these rumors a few weeks ago, that's when you called him. Then you said you've heard these rumors for years. So which one is it, Senator?
So I heard rumors of him being flirty.
And that wasn't
flirty. Now, and look, Listen and Post brought up a good point. Jokingly, he says, he says so much coke he sees polar bears in his dreams. Gallego is in fast forward here. When I first saw this interview, I thought it was sped up because, sometimes just for the sake of time, they'll put it to like 1.5 speed and it's just quick enough that you can notice something's off. This is real time. Watch how he's answering questions. Watch how he's bouncing all over the place.
An issue enough for you to not trust him to watch your kids or be close with him?
Because, you hear this, and then when you're close to somebody and you know his wife, you see this. You see that relationship. You know that, like, it maybe just isn't true.
Have you asked him about it prior to this few weeks?
I asked him about it a few weeks ago when it started coming up online.
Yes. When you asked him about it.
Yes, you in the back, you in the front, you in the side, you on the other side, you behind me. Oh my God, the spiders are all over me. The whole interview is weird. Go check it out if you have a chance. I'm not going to spend too much time on it because Gallegos is not the story per se right now. He's part of it, but he's not necessarily the story. What is the story? And Bill Melugin over at Fox News, who I really like Bill Melugin. I don't watch Fox News anymore. I follow Bill Melugin on social media. Bill Melugin posted this, and it says, the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department says the alleged SA of Lonna Drewes, remember that name because I'm going to be speaking about that shortly, by Eric Swalwell took place in 2018 in the 900 block of Hammond Street. This comes back to the Montrose Hotel. Campaign finance expert RP Rob Pyers has flagged the travel expense from Swalwell's campaign at that time with FEC records showing Swalwell for Congress spent $361 in travel expenses at the Montrose Hotel on July 18, 2018. And here it is. And that's part of the FEC. That's all legit. Not making that up. He's not making that up. You can see the payment right there to Montrose. So I brought up a name, and of course that name is Lonna Drewes, who gave an interview, and she's the one making the allegations so far. And I'm going to start playing her interview. I'm not going to interrupt it. I'm not going to, let me rephrase that. I may stop it here and there and comment, and that's not to do any injustice to her interview. It's just because there are some things I want to point out that I noticed during the interview. First and foremost, I believe the credibility. He is making Emio Koivunen look slow. He is. I believe the credibility. I know that won't mean a lot to people, but I when you have interviewed victims before, and I've interviewed victims of this sort of incident before, it's very easy to tell right from the get-go if there is emotion involved in the interview or if somebody's going through the steps. Now, first to admit, people can fake their way through anything. Yes, that does happen. I'm not saying that it doesn't. I'm also not saying that's what's happening here. So as I play the interview, I do want to give her time, and I will stop it with comments here and there.
My name is Lonna Drewes. In 2018, while I was living and working as a model in Beverly Hills, and I also owned a fashion software company, I had contact with Eric Swalwell on 3 separate occasions after meeting him socially.
So, and I know the volume's a little hard, so I'm just going to roll through it really quick. She gave her background. She was in the fashion industry. She had a fashion website. She's met Swalwell a few times socially, but she met him 3 other times, what sounds like a one-on-one situation. And I am going to paraphrase a little bit. You can go watch the whole interview, but I know the volume's a little soft. It's the loudest I can get it right now.
He offered me connections to further my software company. And I also had an interest in local politics.
So he offered her the ability to expand her company that she's trying to build. And she had an interest in local politics. And of course, Eric, being just the entrepreneurial giving guy that he is, looked at her and said, yeah, I want to help you with that.
He invited me to 2 public events. I knew he was married at the time and that his wife was pregnant. He was my friend.
So what she was saying is, at the time, she knew who he was, she knew what he was about, but she said she was under the impression that they were friends.
The 3rd occasion, I believe he drugged my drink. I only had 1 glass of wine. We were supposed to go to a political event, and he said he needed to get paperwork from his hotel room. When I arrived at his hotel room, I was already incapacitated.
So to summarize, they stopped somewhere. They were supposed to go to a political event. They had a glass of wine. She believes that he slipped something into her drink because she felt like she was incapacitated by the time they got back to the hotel room that Swalwell suddenly thought he had to go to get paperwork to go to the political event.
And I couldn't move my arms or my body. He raped me, and he choked me. And while he was choking me, I lost consciousness.
Okay. So she said, essentially, they get to the hotel room, the effects of the whatever she believed was slipped into her drink took over, and she was unable to move her extremities. He then assaulted her, apparently choked her, even though she couldn't move, to the point that she lost consciousness. And again, this is her story, not mine. But if you watch her body language, in stark contrast to Gallego's, the one thing you're seeing, and you see this a lot with SA victims when they tell their story, because no matter how much therapy they get and how much support that they get, oftentimes they still feel like they did something wrong. And when she's speaking, you can see that in her voice. She feels like which she didn't, obviously. She obviously did nothing to deserve this. Nobody does. Nobody can. This is pure predatory monster behavior by an individual that she's alleging did this, which of course is Eric Swalwell. So it starts painting a very graphic and very monstrous portrait of a guy. And look, I've made my jokes about Swalwell, about, you know, being a dork, all this other stuff. Monday night, I spent a whole night talking about it. The amount of anger that this develops inside me to see somebody be victimized like this by another human being. I don't care if it's male, 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 female, 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 whatever. To be victimized like this, it is off the charts, and it should be for any normal person. If what she is saying is true, this was not, we had a couple of drinks and I did something I wish I hadn't. This was, I went out with a friend, and the next thing I know, I couldn't move, and he attacked me, and did it apparently in a brutal, brutal nature.
And I thought I died. I did not consent to any sexual activity. Although I did not undergo a rape kit at the time, I disclosed the assault to the people closest to me. I also recorded these events in my handwritten calendar.
So she said she kept tabs. She did not obviously go to the police at the time. She did not get an SA kit done at a hospital. And this is also common when the suspect or the attacker is somebody who has power or power over an individual. Power in general. A lot of famous people, think back to Harvey Weinstein, Bill Clinton, right? That image of power, or that ability to hold power or claim you have power, or even just portray power, is sometimes enough to intimidate victims to not speak up and not come forward. Because even without saying the words, it's not going to go anywhere, do you know who I am? That's what it does. That's what it says. It says, I'm so powerful, even if you go somewhere, this isn't going to go anywhere. And even if there's nothing overtly said like that, that's how the victim often feels when the suspect, the perpetrator, is a powerful human being. Remember, Swalwell, as much as he is a shithead and a piece of garbage, is a sitting member of Congress, and at that time was pretty elevated in the spotlight of Congress. I mean, you remember, you have to think, out of all the House of Representatives members there are, you always come to the same 10 or 20 in your head because they're the most powerful ones. They're the most vocal ones. They're on all the big boards. They're the ones doing interviews. They're the ones doing all these daises where they have people in front and they question them in committees and whatnot. That portrayal of power to a young, impressionable person cannot be overstated. I'll let her continue.
The assault and its impact were later documented during my therapy sessions at a sexual assault center in Connecticut.
So she went to a therapy session for people who are victims of this type of crime. And I've already seen some people, and of course there's a lot of trolls. Oh, you know, this isn't real, blah, blah, blah. That's a lot of mock-up for a false allegation. You don't fly across the country and start attending meetings and therapy sessions because you're trying to set something up to come out, 8 years later or whatever it is, and make an allegation.
It had a profound impact on my mental health.
Of course.
I self-medicated in an unhealthy way. I did not want to live anymore.
This is also very, very common with victims of SA. The self-medication, feeding into the shame, feeding into the guilt, even though they've done nothing. It's hard when you get into your head. And I've never been in that situation. I'm just talking about in life sometimes, just normal everyday mistakes that you make. It's hard to get it out of your head. Never mind when you're victimized like this. And she admits at one point she thought she didn't want to live anymore.
I cried all the time for years. At the time, I was in a dating relationship with a boyfriend I was fully committed to. I've never cheated in my life, and I would never have engaged in a consensual sexual encounter with Eric Swalwell.
So, and she said, and there's a couple more minutes, but this is the gist of it. Because I want you to actually go look up the interview and let her tell her story. But she said, look, at the time I was in a committed relationship. She thought this was a friendship business thing. She would not have gone through with it had she not been drugged, and that it was a result of what Swalwell did that led her to be able to not defend herself and stop the attack. This is we were talking Monday night about how more is going to come out and how this is going to have massive waves throughout Congress. And it's looking more and more like it's true. And it's gone from Swalwell, for me, has gone from a joke that was just easy to poke fun at to somebody who brings up absolute anger inside me to think about who he is as a person. We all knew he was a liar politically. Hell, he lied about living in California because he rented a 1-bedroom apartment, he said, in order to qualify and be governor. We knew Eric Swalwell was a liar. But he's also a predator. I saw the fart joke. Oh, he farted on national TV, and we all, ha, 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 Eric Fartwell. We made fun of all of his stupid videos, him getting out of the pool and lifting weights and saying bullshit over and over again and trying to act like a tough guy. And I said, well before any of this ever came out, that he was such a nerd that his whole life that once he got power, he was dangerous, and he thought he was bigger than what he really was. And if what she said is true in her statement and her allegations, and the statement and notes and everything else that she gave to the sheriff's department, if what she said is true, he is well beyond a joke. He is a disgusting, garbage human being. And I joked Monday or Tuesday on social media that I hope somebody takes his shoelaces away, because I don't trust him to have the stones and the guts to face this head on and deal with it like a man. And I absolutely believe that. I don't think he does. And honestly, if he was in custody, it would be better off. Obviously, a lot of things have to take place for that to happen. But I wouldn't be shocked. I said the best thing that he could do on his way out the door is start naming names. And that brings us to the Congressional Slush Fund. This isn't just a one-off. And I know I get 2 minutes left. But you have to remember, Congress has an entire fund that you and I don't have access to anything in it for the most part, to pay off alleged victims of SA and actual victims to go away and essentially put them in a non-disclosure so they can't speak about it and they get paid money. Some of the victims who've been paid out of that was the victims of the victim of Joe Biden and many others. He does have 2 investigations, Boyd, one in California and the one in New York. Both of them are monstrous. But when you have such a problem in your body, such as Congress does, that you have a fucking slush fund to shut people up. And I'll tell you, I've seen this working in law enforcement. I've seen this in a lot of other places. You say, hey, this bad thing happened, and they show up with a check, have you sign a form, give you a little bit of money, and make you go away. And a lot of people just jump on that. It used to make me mad because I can tell friends who have been involved in an arrest. I remember one specifically. The guy was fighting him the whole time. They were in an alley, yada, yada, yada. As he was cuffing the guy's wrist got broken because they were fighting. Handcuffs are not soft. The guy's wrist got broken. But it was in a legitimate use of force in which that happened. And because it costs more money to litigate that in court than it does to give the person $5,000 and have them sign a form saying they'll never sue again, the departments just show up with a check, sign $5,000, and walk away. So the fact that all of Congress has this in their back pocket, and it's sad, but people like Swalwell assumed that should they get caught up in this sort of activity, which he did, that he would just be able to turn around and the slush fund would take care of it and go away. It's kind of like a weird get out of free card, except it's a taxpayer Amex. You take a break. Please do me a favor, like and subscribe to the channel. You can follow us, shrmedia.com, for more information. Thank you to our friends over at KLRN for the simulcast. Be back right after this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Welcome to the SHR Media Shop. This is not just merch, it is a statement. SHR Media is built as a rebellion against the mainstream. We deliver truth without a filter or permission. When you wear our gear, you are standing for liberty and unapologetic free thought. Every piece is a badge of support for independent journalism. Wear it loud, wear it proud. Support the mission and join the rebellion at the SHR Media web store.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? And check out 7 Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with 7 Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com.
Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRN Radio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRN Radio.
Welcome to the Reaver of Common Sense, where we cut through the noise of news and politics with a sharp edge. Tune in every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a refreshing dose of reality. We fearlessly tackle the tough topics with no nonsense, just pure common sense. Visit shrmedia.com to discover where you can catch the Reaver in action. He is here to amplify your inner logic. He may not always be polite. He may not always be refined. But one thing is for sure, he always tells it like it is. The Reaver of Common Sense.
Welcome back to the Edge of Liberty right here on the SHI Media Network. Now, Swalwell's out as congressman and, of course, as a gubernatorial candidate, and that leaves a vacant hole because Swalwell was leading among Democrats, and he was the biggest challenger to both Chad Bianco and Steve Hilton. I'm talking just front runners here tonight. There are plenty of other candidates that are great out there. I'm not even sold on either one, Hilton or Bianco. I have my issues with both of them, like I said. There are other great independent, non-party people running. Look up Daniel Mercury. Smart guy, great guy, honest, truthful. Somebody you should be considered, but I don't tell you who to vote for, and I never will. I just tell you to look at all the options. But I did want to bring up who's left on the Democrat side, the two biggest names. Of course, the first one is Katie Porter. Now, being of Irish descent, you think I would approve the use of mashed potatoes as weapons, but I do not, especially in a domestic violence situation. But we all know Katie Porter's story. The allegation that she was in an argument with her husband and they had boiling mashed potatoes or steaming hot mashed potatoes and dumped it on his head, which, by the way, is usually a felony, believe it or not. But Katie Porter and Tom Steyer are both now trying to absorb as many Swalwell voters as they can get because they need the numbers. Katie Swalwell went on X the other day and said the allegations against Congressman Swalwell are horrifying. I will agree with her there. I'm thinking of the courageous women who have come forward to share their stories. We believe you and we stand with you. And then the community note is amazing. Katie Porter is an alleged domestic abuser who poured scalding hot potatoes on her ex-husband's head. She's also been seen on camera verbally berating staff and for minor slights and has been described as abusive herself. Now, let's look into Katie Porter for a little bit, because outside the mashed potatoes and outside the video that we've all seen of her scolding somebody for getting in her background and was actually trying to correct her so she didn't say something wrong, Katie Porter is trying to portray herself as just an everyday Joe in California, just somebody just trying to get through. She put out a post today that I have, and she's talking about, as a single mom, I know how hard it is to pay for college, because her next big scam that she's trying to pass is free college again in California state universities, which it used to be free, and the Democrats took that away, I'm pretty sure. And now she wants to use that, as all Democrats have to do, to try to buy votes. Oh, young people, we're not doing well with young people. Young people, we will send you to school for free, versus making a change that actually makes life affordable for you, because we're Democrats and we can't do that. So how are we going to do that? Naturally, we're going to tax the rich, because the rich suck, the rich are monsters, blah, 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 blah. And that's her hook on this. But what you may not know is Katie Porter is not the middle-class working single mom you say she says she is. As a matter of fact, that's kind of the furthest thing from Katie Porter. Katie Porter went to school at the Phillips Academy in Andover, Massachusetts, which is a college preparatory school. I grew up not far from Andover, Massachusetts, right next to Boston. And I will tell you, I never met any poor kids that went to the Phillips Academy. As a matter of fact, they were all well off. The Phillips Academy was literally that's where all the rich kids send their kids to go to school. They drive 40 minutes, 50 minutes a day just to go there. And it also boarded. When she got out of there, she went to undergraduate at Yale, that little community college, Yale. And then she went to a 4-year state school called Harvard Law School. I'm sure it's not super expensive and really selective to get into, yada, 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 and that you need influence and power. And she was able to actually get into the law school there. And then, because, she's just a hard-working, everyday gal with no temper or anger issues whatsoever, she got a federal-level internship with Chuck Grassley, i.e., that is the open door to which she enters politics. So she goes to Phillips Academy, where they probably had steak for dinner every single night of the week. She goes to Yale, fucking Yale. And she was at some special group college in Yale. It wasn't just Yale regular. It was some special, I forget the name of it, but it was named after a person they later changed the name because they said he was a white supremacist, which if he was, I'm sure he was. I'm not arguing that part. But it was very exclusive, is my point. Then she gets in with Chuck Grassley, and she's just a normal working class person. She spent a significant amount of her career in government office. She took a brief stint at a private practice called Stoll Reeves before she was appointed in 2012 by AG of California at the time, Kamala Harris, to a high-level state position to monitor mortgage service compliance. And then she did what every single person who works in government defending people or allegedly defending people from big, mean, nasty business does. She went and worked for big, mean, nasty business. Oaken Financial, who is characterized by many as debt collectors who aggressively pursue homeowners, is who she went to work for a short amount of time, utilizing her state mortgage oversight knowledge to be able to leverage for that company. Just an everyday person, just looking out for the little guy her whole career, right? But what's really troubling about mashed potatoes, Katie Porter, is it's not the fact that she is a typical government bureaucrat with the history of a typical government bureaucrat has. She's everything she's claiming she's not. But she's an asshole on top of it. And a roaring asshole to boot. She's not like a shrewd business person. She's not matter of fact. No, she's just fucking mean. And she tries her videos lately. She released another video today. Luckily, there was nobody in her shot in the background or she would have lost her shit. She tries to portray herself as like bob haircut, single mom, and I'm just getting through life and barely blah, 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 blah. People forget about her past. Way back when she was a rep, Politico, which is not a right-leaning rag whatsoever, it's a leftist outlet, stated that people who worked for her reportedly characterized her as terrible boss and, according to some people, racist as well. WAPO, Washington Post, another left-leaning rag, interviewed 8 former employees. They described Porter as domineering and recounted multiple instances of mistreatment, former staffers' experiences where she berated them to tears. Reporters have also documented where the video we all saw where she's screaming at the person in the background that was working with her. After those allegations went out, and I'm sure she doesn't want you to look this up or share it or anything like that if you're in California, she then went on The View to defend herself from these allegations. And while she was on The View, she equated people attacking her for her treatment of them as the same as a woman of color would receive for discrimination. She's saying she's being discriminated against. Katie Porter's whole life has been what the left would call white privilege. Her whole life up until this point has been that. And she's not, as she's selling free college, she's not just this poor, struggling mom. Like you see real struggling moms out there trying to portray, or trying to show you how hard it is. No. She works for UC Irvine as a professor. She's written books. She worked for the House where she accumulated a bunch of money. She's worth about $2.5 million liquid that we know of. That's just what's publicly documented. The house she bought is on campus at UC Irvine. They had a bunch of houses that they purchased in the area to kind of insulate members from the LA housing market. The house that she owns is a $1.3 million mansion on campus that she bought for $523,000. Essentially, she got it at a foreclosure rate. And that, like I said, that does not include the allegations of domestic violence. So she's going out there, and this is just this is all Democrats do. They portray themselves as struggling and totally connected to the middle class. Yet they live a life of Riley, as we used to say back in the East Coast. They're living well. She is living high on the hog, mashed potatoes and all. And the other person who tried to fill the void is Tom Steyer. And Tom Steyer is literally everything the progressive left hates. Hands down, no questions asked. He's worth approximately $1.5 billion. He's already gone out on the whole, we must ban ICE. ICE is a criminal organization. He actually said that in a post 2 days ago or yesterday. As governor, I'll prosecute them as one. Tom Steyer's the guy that's always wanted. He's got money, and he's always wanted the political power, right? And you could, there's some say, well, Trump did the same thing. Okay, but Trump's lost a shitload of money, and Trump's never tried to portray himself as something that he wasn't, as much as that makes people angry. We all knew Trump was rich. He didn't act like he was middle class. He said he worried about the middle class, but he didn't act like he was. He has spent over $66 million of his own money trying to elevate his power through politics. Now, again, Trump was rich. 100% yes, Trump was rich. Trump never portrayed himself as not being rich. And Trump never tried to portray himself as anything other than what Donald Trump is. He was bombastic. He never hid that. He was a shrewd business person. He never hid that. He had no problem with people being wealthy and doing well. As a matter of fact, he knows that that's what creates jobs, and it does, by and large. But he said two things can exist at the same time. We can take care of the middle class and the less rich people in this country, and still let the people who have wealth in this country keep their money so they can fund companies and businesses and entrepreneurial and all of that stuff, which so many do. Excuse me. Steyer went on to say he attacked billionaires, which he is one, which is hysterical, about how they need to get taxed more. And I don't remember who responded to him on X, and I wholly agree. Tom Steyer could sign the check tomorrow and turn over all of his wealth to the state and or federal government. He could put his money where his mouth is tomorrow. Show everybody that he's legitimate when he says certain people shouldn't have so much money and power and that you should tax the bejesus out of them. Tom, buddy, however much you think you should be paying, you can write that check. Nothing is stopping you other than the fact that you're full of shit. And this is obvious that you're full of shit. You're grifting. You're trying to automatically lock into the anti-ICE community on the left. You're trying to attack billionaires, even though you are fucking one, and you're not doing anything to not be a billionaire anymore. You're almost like Bernie Sanders. It's really funny how Bernie Sanders attacked millionaires until he became one, and then all of a sudden he attacked billionaires. And if Bernie became a billionaire, he'd attack trillionaires when we finally get them. And it's going to happen. And that's the same thing Steyer is trying to do here, except Steyer has the warmth and personality of a slug. If you've ever seen him speak, and I'm about to show it to you, and I apologize for that, because, look, I get 12 minutes left. Try to stay awake for it after watching this video. Here is super relatable. I hate the rich. I hate ICE. I'm for the working man. I am a working man. Tom Steyer.
And big corporations to buy into the future of California and be willing to pay more. A lot of people in California are acting as if we have a zero-sum game, and they're defending their wealth, and they're trying to make sure that they minimize their taxes. I am not scared about paying more money. Working Californians are being priced out of this state. It is not okay. We are creating more than enough money in this state for us all to succeed together without anybody suffering. This is a state with values. This is a state where everybody moves up together. I think that everybody who's succeeded in this state owes a huge debt to the people who built this state.
Yeah, a lot of people built this state, Tom, not you. You were a hedge fund manager for Farallon Capital. That's where you game into a lot of your money. You're literally attacking everything you are and trying to pretend that you're somebody else. And it's funny to me that they still think this works, because authenticity, as we've seen, is more and more what people actually go for. And Tom Steyer, like I said, he's got the wealth of a slug. He's got the warmth of a slug. He's not relatable. He just isn't. I don't care who you are. You don't look at Tom Steyer and go, yeah, he's just like me, as he's trying to portray that he is. So California's we the voters here have some amazing choices ahead of them for the Democratic side. And the sad part is, I still would not put it past them to elect one of those two morons, Mashed Potatoes Porter or Steyer. I just wouldn't, because they have been so mentally broken. There's a couple in the chat room right now, that because Orange Man Bad runs everything in their life, that they can't look at anything outside of that. That's where they exist. That's the only place they exist. And there are other options out there. And like I said, even if you don't like the two top on the other side, Hilton and Bianco, there's so many other people running in California that you could look at and legitimately would do a better job beyond the four big names. But California won't. They absolutely won't. Chatty, I see you in the chat room. I don't know what you want me to respond to. You have Orange Man Bad syndrome. No matter what I'm talking about, I'm not even talking about Trump in this instance, and you're bringing up Trump. So that tells me how broken you are. I'm talking about the California gubernatorial race, plain and simple. And you keep trying to bring it back to the conversation you want to have, because you're mentally defective and you don't know how else to have any other conversation because of your programming. So go ahead and go back and just tell everybody when you get out of the basement, tell mom you did a great job. Maybe she'll give you a cookie. So moving on to another story that kind of surprised me a little bit, which is the motion to impeach Tim Walz in Minnesota. And I say this because when I talked about, and we had on somebody who worked in and around Minnesota government for years and lived in Minnesota their whole life on a couple of months ago, we talked about how deep blue the Minnesota Congress is, and how all the stuff that came out with all the fraud stories, everybody knew was happening, and it wasn't a shock. They were talked about 2 years before Nick Shirley showed up locally, and the local media refused to report it. During the campaign in which Tim Walz was the vice president nominee for the Democrats, they absolutely 100% knew this fraud was going on in Minnesota, and the local media and the people that vetted Tim Walz overlooked it. So Representative Mike Weiner and Representative Ben Davis led the charge to file the impeachment charges. House Resolution 6 outlines 4 specific articles of impeachment focused entirely on corrupt conduct. The resolution calls out Walz for knowing about widespread fraud within taxpayer-funded program and choose to conceal it. We see it more and more as time goes on, that everybody knew this was going on, including, and you have, it's an X account with all the Minnesota state workers who said, who are banding together and say, hey, Walz knew this. Everybody knew this. Nobody did shit about it. And now finally, somebody's trying to do something about it. This isn't going to go anywhere because the Democrats will absolutely block it and protect him. You need to be completely honest with yourself. If you think that there's any chance that Tim Walz is going to be impeached, the answer is no. But the fact that they actually brought articles of impeachment for this kind of blew my mind, given what we know about the Minnesota Congress. Minnesota House is split evenly between Republicans and Democrats. Advanced impeachment requires a majority of the House and a massive 2/3 in the Senate in Minnesota, where the Democrats hold a 1-seat majority. So it's a pipe dream. But I thought it was interesting that somebody actually went that far. And what this will do is might force, if they bring people in to testify, people to testify under oath. So you might actually you're not going to get an impeachment, but you might actually get some people testifying under oath, which would be pretty incredible. Just to see what they have to say and what they're willing to say. And as if that wasn't enough, and as if I did not bore you enough by letting you see Steyer, because that's just exhausting for anybody. Is a traitor. Yet you're still here. Chatty, whatever your name is. I'm not going to say that word because it's stupid, is a traitor. Nothing you say is worth listening to. You will never be an American. This is how I know you're from overseas. This is how I know you're not an American. Because anytime somebody says you'll never be an American, it makes me laugh, because that's you trying to portray something that you're not. Like I said, first and foremost, we're on the side of the Constitution in our history. You're on the opposite side of it if you're really an American Democrat. You're trying to change, uproot, and do everything about that. We're trying to preserve the nation. We're the true Americans. You're the insurgents. Have fun. And speaking of weird Democrats, they're singing again. I don't know what it is about the new age hippies, and this is what they are, where every time they get stressed, every time they start to worry, they start producing music, and it's just God fucking awful. But if I saw it, you have to see it.
3, 4, 1. We see that there's a wrong to be righted to. We know that we are stronger when united. 3, we exercise our right to assemble. 4, that's when the proud and mighty start to tremble. Just in case you're wondering, just in case you're wondering, just in case you're wondering. Hey, look.
Chatty, are you in this video? I just realized that. Are you in this video? This could be any one of you, right?
This is what democracy looks like.
They do have the token non-white person that they had to have in the video, and you can't tell what gender they are or anything like that. So yeah, they covered that base, but the rest of them are literally everybody that you're arguing with on the internet, just summed up.
Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Show me what democracy looks like.
Look, white people, listen up for a second. When they make fun of us for not being able to dance, and they're right. When they talk about our food having no seasoning, and they're right. When they when they make fun of the potato salads for having raisins in it, and they're right. It's because of shit like this. It's because of shit like this that you're doing. I don't care if you're Democrat. I don't care if you're Republican. Can we please stop with the ridiculous folk songs to try to make you think that you've done something? Now, as I said, that is the progressive left. They have the sexually ambiguous kind of tan person who could be male or female to say, hey, look, we love everybody. This person's 12 different people. And then the rest are awfuls, angry, white, female liberals, and their husbands, just sprinkled in to try to make it look legitimate. Oh, God. This is who we're arguing with on the internet. That is 100% who you're arguing with on the internet. And that is everything on the left right there. Oh, see, but because you want to be permabanned, I won't permaban you because I know you're going to come back, and you know what you're going to do? You're going to drive my average listening time up. So thank you, Chatty. I can't wait to see you next Wednesday when I'm here at 8 p.m. Pacific. That's right, not Monday. Got to take off Monday night. I have plans. I will not be here, but I will be back here Wednesday, a week from tonight, 8 p.m. Pacific. I'm going to try to squeeze in a show maybe next Thursday. It's not 100% yet, so don't quote me on that. But if in the meantime you have a hankering for more great shows from SHR Media, Monday and Friday night, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 on the East Coast, you have the Reaver of Common Sense with Jersey Joe. Tuesday and Thursdays, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon on the East Coast, you have Mission Ready Men with my man Big E. Tuesday and Thursday nights, hopefully the giant orange cable locator did enough damage that it gets, or didn't do enough damage that it gets solved. BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. He'll be 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 on the East Coast. Friday and Saturdays, you have Beer and Bullstein with Lyle. Lyle, Friday and Saturday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 on the East Coast. And then on Sundays, every other Sunday, you have The Lost Wonder right here on SHR Media YouTube, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 on the East Coast. Thank you so much for being here. Please check out shrmedia.com. You can get some swag. You can get some merch if you'd be so kind. Thank you to our friends at KLRN Radio for the simulcast. We greatly appreciate it.